Good morning. We're going to get started this morning with an invocation led by Father John Paul Lewis of St. Francis of Assisi Church, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Rayanna Tanner of Girl Scout Troop 6429. Please stand as you are able.
Please join me in prayer. Almighty God and Father, we give you thanks for all the blessings that you've given us. We give you thanks for the gift of the city and for these, our leaders. We ask that as we anticipate this new year, that you would pour out on these representatives a spirit of prudence, a spirit of wisdom and counsel and understanding, a spirit of care and concern for all the people in our city. We ask that you would guide them as they do the work that they do and help them to always work together for the common good. We ask all these things of you who live and reign forever and ever. Amen.
May you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you, Father Lewis, and thank you, Rayanna. Well, I call this meeting of the City Council to order. And we have nothing from Office of the Mayor or items from Council. So we're already at item 5, City Manager reports. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a couple of reports that are on today. One is the public transportation and parking, just their customer satisfaction survey they do every year. We've provided that information and be glad to take any questions, but the ratings are really strong with customer satisfaction with services at all levels. But there's a lot of great detail and great information in there. We'd be glad to get staff with you if you have any other questions on that. The other item that we have is the December sales and use tax. And if you remember, November sales tax results were very negative. We were down about 7.5%. But we did note that there were some anomalies that we believe was there in the data because of the implementation of the state's grocery tax exemption. What we have seen now in the December tax is December sales tax was up 3%. I don't really think this is something that we're expecting to see like that level of growth going forward, but I think it's a correction from last month. So combined all together through the year so far in the first 6 months, we're 2% below target. I'm sorry, 2% below last year in the first 6 months. We projected to be 2% above last year for the year. Our economist has told us we would have slower growth or negative growth or decline in the first half of the year. Seeing that improve in the second half of the year, we're just going to have to continue to watch that to see if we see those improvements going forward. But combined, we're about $7 million between sales and use tax. We're about $7 million below target for the year so far. So we are looking at some measures right now. We've implemented a few measures to get started just to try to hold back a little bit on spending just to make sure that we're setting ourselves up to make it through this fiscal year well. We've got great reserves, so we're in a really strong position to do that. But to make it through this fiscal year well, but then also to set us up for a challenging budget next year. So we're making preparations, instructions have gone out to departments, and so working through that. Be glad to answer any questions. We'll just continue to monitor and keep you updated as we see changes in the sales tax. The only other thing that I have, Mayor, is the claims and payroll, and that can be found at okc.gov.
All right, thank you. Item 6, Journal of Council Proceedings. We have items A and B we can take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously, but we don't have Councilman Stonecipher recorded. Did he vote?
Yes, it didn't come up.
Oh, he'd like to be recorded as yes.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Item 7, requests for uncontested continuances. We have item 11E listed on the agenda to be deferred till January 14th. Are there any other items, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, beginning on page 10 on the concurrence docket, we have an item that needs to go to Aquit still, and so we need to pull that item. It's item 10I. Item 10I,
Okay.
so we will
Consider it struck.
strike that item.
Okay. No,
Just
it's
defer it?
deferred.
Okay, so we'll defer that to the 28th.
of January.
Yes.
Okay.
Then we have item 11B. It's PUD 2016. That will be deferred to the 14th of January, 2025.
Okay, and probably worth noting, several people have signed up for that item, so they may be in the audience, so that item will not be heard today. That's 11B, PUD.
Yeah, I just wanted to make
2016.
sure everyone was aware that this item will not be heard today.
Okay, all right, sorry, go on.
That's okay. Continuing then on page 11, item 11C. Item 11C will be deferred to the 11th of February.
Okay.
And then item 11H is PUD 2021, or I'm sorry, 2041, and that will be deferred to the 14th of January.
Okay,
Then on page 13, 11T1, unsecured structures. All of these items will be stricken from the agenda. Item A, 5005 South Broadway Place, the owner is secured. Item B, 1005 Northwest 31st Street, the owner is secured. Item C, 1500 Northwest 45th Street, the owner is secured. Item F, 4109 Southeast 54th Street, the owner is secured. Then item G, 1037 Southwest 70th Street, the owner is secured. On page 13, item 11U, abandoned buildings. All these items will be stricken for the same reasons they were stricken under unsecured structures. Item A, 5005 South Broadway Place. Item C, 1500 Northwest 45th Street. Item G, 4109 Southeast 54th Street. And item H, 1037 Southwest 70th Street. And that is all the items that I have.
all right, you've heard the items. If there's no objection, that will be the order. All right, moving on to item 8, revocable permits and events. We have item A, revocable right-of-way use permit with the OKC Martin Luther King Jr. Alliance to hold the Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Parade. And we do have William Jones, who has signed up to speak.
Good morning.
Good morning.
William Jones, the president of the Martin Luther King Alliance, and this is Ms. D. Love, the parade coordinator for Martin Luther King. Thank you all for hearing our permit and everything. You know, we want to see a good parade on the 20th of January, starting at 6 in Walker, that's like every year. This is our 45th year altogether. The parade theme this year is Show Love. We're hoping this theme will bring the Oklahoma City community and the surrounding area together, because at this point in everything, time and love is one thing we need to show more of. Any questions anyone has?
No? Councilwoman Hammond?
Well, thank you so much for all the work you do to put on a really great parade each year, and very
Sorry, it's hard to hear you.
I just wanted to say thank you for all the work you all do to put on a really great, and we're very proud in Ward 6 to host
Thank
you,
you.
so happy to move for approval.
Excited this year, of course, always, but looking forward to it. So looking for a great parade.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Let's see if we can get a motion here. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you all. We hope to see you all there.
All right.
God bless. Have a great New Year's.
Thanks, you too. Okay, we'll recess the council and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where we have items A through H we could take with one motion. Staff is not requesting an executive session at F2 and G2. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now we'll adjourn OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we have items A through G we can take with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll adjourn OCPPA and reconvene as the council. We're on item 9, the consent docket. There is a presentation for item V. Is there anything else that a council member wishes to pull out for separate vote, comment, question? Hearing none, we'll do the presentation at item V.
Yeah, on item V, Jamie Caves, I think, is going to speak on this one. I'm not seeing her right now, but basically this is an extension of our contract with Clutch Consulting. They're the ones that have helped us with our Key to Home program. They've continued to work with us. We'd originally started off with them in the first 2 years. This is an extension going into a third year, so it'll take us through 2026. It's in partnership. Initially, we had an investment from Arnold Foundation and Inasmuch, and we've continued with Inasmuch contributing with this, and you can see that in the item that it's a donation from Inasmuch for half of the cost. This helps us continue this. It's an expansion of their services. Well, here's Jamie right here. She can speak to it better than I can. I'll let Jamie finish. So I laid the groundwork for you, Jamie, that we are extending the contract, but I was just starting to talk about the expansion of services and the services they're continuing to provide.
Yes, so we're expanding the services of the Clutch contract for 2025 and then adding a contract for 2026. With the transition of the homeless management information system and the coordinated entry coming back to the city as part of the lead agency functions, we are expanding the capacity of Clutch so that they can coach that team, improve the efficiencies of that system so that our data quality can improve and the function of making those referrals so that people can flow through the homeless response system more efficiently. With this expanded capacity for 2025, they will provide coaching and facilitative leadership coaching to each member of the team, of this new team that we've created here at the city, as well as help with the system modeling so that we can use data to drive the strategies and the implementation for the 2026 plan and beyond.
And then in the 2026, we're also working on continuing the services they provided us with the Key to Home, but also being able to transition away from having the consulting services and our staff taking full responsibility, working with our partners to carry that on in the future.
That's correct. One of the deliverables is a 5-year plan so that we'll have a plan that we can carry forward for the next 5 years.
Thanks, Jamie.
So this is a 2-year extension, not a 1?
This is an amendment to the current year to expand services in the current year, and then it extends services so that we already have an agreement that for 2025. This expands their services in 2025, and then extends to through the end of 2026.
So what services are we expanding?
The expanded services is what Jamie was talking about. What we've done is we're taking it's HMIS, it's the homeless management.
Homeless management information system, so the data system, and the coordinated entry, which matches people to the housing. So those systems have come in-house, and the expanded capacity for Clutch for 2025 is to help support those and improve efficiencies in those systems and provide coaching to the new team members.
So there's a central clearinghouse of information in this management information system. It was previously managed through a partner agency. We're bringing that back in-house, and they're working with us as we're implementing that to make sure it's a coordinated effort with all of our partner agencies, and we're maximizing the efficiency of the system so that we do have better data and decisions that we're making as we're working to serve the homeless.
Okay.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
We have an item that a resident has signed up to speak on, 9W. Brittany Hunter.
Good morning. I am Brittany Hunter, and I am the Executive Director of the Oklahoma City Adventure District. And I haven't met you yet, but I look forward to meeting you soon. We are super excited to be entering our 10th year of our bid district. We have a ton of development. I'm sure if you've driven past 44, you saw our new peak facilities, volleyball facilities, that should be opening within the next couple of months. And we have a few more things that I'm not permitted to say, unfortunately, but I can't wait to come back and tell you guys that update. I will go on the record and say, since we are planning for the GO bond, with all of this development, we would love for 63rd to be widened to 4 lanes, so 2 lanes each way from 44 or I-35 over to Kelly. Thank you guys so much. Happy holidays.
Thank you. All right, we can now take the consent docket with one motion, if the council so desires.
Mayor, I'll vote yes.
All right. Oh, you're not signed in yet, yes. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes, Councilman James Cooper wishes to vote aye. Passes unanimously. All right, item 10, the concurrence docket. We have items A through M we could take with one motion. Of course, item I was previously deferred. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right. Item 11, items for individual consideration. Item 11A is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, rezoning 7502 North May from R1 and C3 to C3. Councilman James Cooper, no one to sign up to speak.
Can we, Mr. Box, you want to come tell us what you're up to with your client, please?
David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. This is a bit of a cleanup. If you look at the zoning map, for whatever reason, the parking lot of this long existing retail building is zoned R1 single family. Parking is not a permitted use in R1 single family. I think it's fair to say that nobody's going to build a home right there along Grand and May. So we need to get this to match the rest of the site zoning.
Okay, well, don't tempt me with a good time. We could build a house right there. But yes, I would move for approval. Thanks for walking us through that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Item B was previously deferred. Item C was previously deferred, which brings us to item D. This is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, rezoning 1501 Exchange from I2, I3, SPUD 827, and SRODD to PUD 2030 and SRODD. Councilwoman Hammond, no one is signed to speak.
I will move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item E was previously deferred, which brings us to item F. This is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, rezoning 3333 West Hefner Road from PUD 490, SPUD 558, SPUD 1046, CUP 58, R4, and LHPSC to PUD 2034 and LHPSC. Councilman Stonecipher, no one has signed up to speak.
Nicely done. No one signed up to speak. Okay, I'll move for approval at this time, please.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item G is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, rezoning 7600 Southwest 119th from PUD 1831 to PUD 2040. You got this, Councilman Carter?
Has anyone signed up to speak?
They have not.
Okay, we'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item H was previously deferred, which brings us to item I. This is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, rezoning 1228 Northwest 92nd from R1 to SPUD 1681. Councilman James Cooper, no one has signed up to speak.
Is the applicant, oh, there we go. Mr. Box, so good to see you again. And so soon.
David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. This is an SPD that would allow the back dwelling unit that's already there. It's zoned R1, even though this dwelling unit has been there for many years. Technically, it's multifamily on an R1 parcel, which is not permitted. The SPD is needed to ensure that the back house can be properly permitted as a separate dwelling unit.
Now, you and I spoke about this over the holidays. Would you remind us here, because there are existing structures there, we're not talking about tearing down those structures, this is to bring them up so that
Correct.
they're in compliance.
Yeah, so what is needed now, in the absence of a ADU ordinance, is to rezone the site to allow 2 dwelling units to exist on the one site. Because right now, as an R1 zoning, you could not have 2 separate independent dwelling units with different addresses, different meters, and those things. So the zoning is needed to allow what is there to be legal.
For those following at home with the accessory dwelling unit conversation, then just understand how that fits in here. But I'm going to understand that even, and this is to some concerns I heard from council members 2 weeks ago with the accessory dwelling unit proposal, correct me if I'm wrong, where this location is outside of the proposed first round of ADUs. So just to drive it home to everybody, and those who haven't been caught up on this conversation with ADUs, someone to get this up to compliance had to pay an attorney, go through the planning process to bring this property up to compliance. If you're a firefighter or you're a teacher or a nurse, do you have that money to go through all of that process? Do you even understand that process? And the answer is likely no, which is why I'm someone who supports ADUs. Let me just put that out there right now. I only mention it because you did. But I think we're gonna have to have a conversation about the rest of the city. Not, because right now it's just a small square that we're looking at where these ADUs would take place. It would not include this area. And so some of the other council members have already brought up that concern. I just wanted to join them in that concern. So anywho, thanks for mentioning that, and I'll move for approval.
All right, got a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. All right, item J is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, rezoning 3249 Southwest 104th from PUD 831 AE1 and AE2 to SPUD 1684 AE1 and 2. Councilman Hinkle, no one has signed up to speak.
I'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item K is an ordinance on final hearing. It is recommended for approval, establishing a special permit to operate use unit 8250.19 transitional mental health residential facilities in the AA Agricultural District at 6501 Northeast 50th. Councilman Lee Cooper, no one has signed up to speak.
No one signed up? Nope. This is actually an excellent facility. I've had the privilege of being able to see what they do, and so we're ready to recommend approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item L is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, closing a portion of the north-south alley in Block 1 of Northwest Heights Edition, west of Ollie and south of Northwest 67th. Councilman James Cooper.
No, it is you again, Mr. Box. 3 times in a row. To what do we owe this honor?
Morning. David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. This is an alley closing. It's part of a planned multifamily development. The multifamily development was approved as part of an SPUD a few months ago, and this is simply a cleanup of an old alley that exists. I don't believe there's any utilities or infrastructure within that alley. So this will allow us to move forward with the development.
Okay, well, let's help you move forward then. I'll help you do that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Item M is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, closing a platted portion of the east-west right-of-way drainage and utility easement of Southwest 164th, south of Penn. Councilman Hinkle, no one has signed up to speak.
No, you don't need to come up here, Mark. I just wanted to make you stand up. Can you tell me how many shovelfuls of dirt are going to be? No, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item N is an ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval, closing a portion of the north-south utility easement within Lot 6 and 7 in Block 6 of Whistle Creek Phase 2, north of 161st Street. Councilman Lee Cooper.
Is anyone?
They have not.
Move for approval.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item O is an ordinance on final hearing, removing all parking controls from the east side of North Robinson between 12th and 13th. Councilwoman Hammond.
I'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item P is a public hearing regarding the Adventure District Business Improvement District. Has anyone signed to speak on this public hearing?
No, they haven't.
They have not, so we will close it. P2 and PQ are related. They both relate to the assessment roll for year 2025 for the Adventure District Business Improvement District. There's no presentation. This is a formality we engage in each year. If the council would like to move forward, we could take a motion on item P2.
I move for adoption. Just excited about what's happening in the Adventure District. Move for adoption.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the resolution found at P2. Passes unanimously. And now the related Q, ordinance on final hearing.
Move for adoption.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item R is an ordinance to be introduced today, set for public hearing January 14th, final hearing January 28th, relating to Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code, Budgetary Affairs, and we have a presentation today.
Yes, Chris York, our budget director, is going to explain the changes that we're requesting today.
Thank you, City Manager. A pretty straightforward amendment this morning that's being introduced. State law requires us to visit our capital improvements project plan every 3 years. Municipal code exceeds that at every 2 years. And what staff is asking for with this amendment is that we sync up with the state requirement of every 3 years. I should mention the intent is for us to continue to bring you that plan every 2 years, but we'd like the flexibility in years such as this one that we're in, where in the calendar year we expect a GO bond authorization that the voters could approve that would significantly impact the plan that we would bring you. If we were to bring you the plan in the current calendar year without that consideration, it would be missing hundreds of millions of dollars of projects, and we think that you'd get a better plan by simply waiting a few months until we have a better idea of what that would look like. So today is the introduction. We'll bring you back a public hearing on January the 14th, and then a final hearing on January 28th. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, if there's no questions or comments, we could introduce the ordinance for consideration. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. It'll be set for public hearing on the 14th, final hearing January 28th. All right, now we're at S1, the public hearing regarding the dilapidated structures here listed. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
They have not, so we'll advance to the resolution found at S2, declaring that the structures are dilapidated. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. T1 is the public hearing regarding unsecured structures here listed, except for those previously struck. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
They have not, and so we'll advance to the resolution found at T2, declaring that structures are unsecured, except for those previously struck. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. U1 is the public hearing regarding the abandoned buildings here listed. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
If not, so we'll advance to the resolution found at U2, declaring that the buildings are abandoned except for those previously struck. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right. 11V and W are related. This is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation from our economic development funds. And there's a presentation.
Yes, Jenna McSpadden, our Economic Development Manager, is going to explain these changes. They're related to the ARPA program for the Small Business Assistance and just providing some additional funding to expand that program. So I'll let Joanna explain those.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor and Council. Joanna McSpadden with the Finance Department. Like Craig said, the first item V is a allocation to add $750,000 for the ability to close out those programs that we had for small business through the ARPA funding. That funding would be provided to the Alliance, who we had contracted with to manage those programs for us, which is item W. That is the contract amendment to authorize that expenditure. Happy to answer questions if you have any.
Okay. If there's no questions, we could take up the joint resolution found at item V. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And now the related item W, amendment number 2 to the operation agreement for coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, business support programs with the Alliance. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, item X1 is a resolution authorizing the municipal council to confess judgment without admitting liability in the case of Coulter and Coulter v. City of OKC. Executive session is not requested. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item Y1 is a resolution authorizing the municipal council to confess judgment without admission of liability in the case of Lassiter v. City of OKC and OCPD. Executive session is not requested. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Z1 is a resolution authorizing the municipal council to confess judgment without admission of liability in the case of Cameo Holland v. City of OKC, et cetera. We do have executive session requested for this, so we can go ahead and take a vote on that momentarily. Maybe we'll go ahead. There's one resident who signed up to speak. Rather than have them wait till we do all of those other things, why don't we have them now? That's John Kaufman.
Thank you. John Kaufman, 2301 Northwest 156th. Some people make cutting remarks, but the words of the wise bring healing. Truthful words stand the test of time, but lies are soon exposed. It was a tragedy what happened on November 23rd, 2020, in front of reportedly 30 officers, in front of our city, and in front of the nation. Part of that healing is doing what's right for Cameo Holland. It was reported that the council was going to be approving an $800,000 payment. I started looking at the numbers. The starting pay for a new officer is $66,252. If all 5 of the officers that were on administrative leave for 2.5 years, that adds up to $824,000. But these are not new recruits. I would just encourage the council to pay Cameo Holland, the mother, the same amount that we paid our officers on administrative leave. And I appreciate your time.
All right. Now we could take a motion to go into executive session on this item. We'll handle that vote now, and then would come back after that for the resolution. All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We will handle that executive session at the end of our other business, and then the resolution at Z1. Okay, AA1 is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority authorizing Jessica Dark, Jeffrey Hendrickson, and Riley Nestor of Pierce Couch, et cetera, to represent and defend city employee James Lynn in the case of Baker v. City of OKC. Executive session is not requested. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, AB1 is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority authorizing legal representation from Pierce Couch, et cetera, to represent and defend Dorothy Symington in the case of Baker v. City of OKC. Executive session is not requested. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, item AC is an executive session on advice of the municipal counselor to receive confidential communications concerning the case of Walker v. City of OKC. We'll take a vote on this and handle this with our other executive session. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, as stated, we'll handle that at the end of our other business. We are now at item 12, comments from council. Ward 1.
Just Happy New Year.
Thank you. Ward 2. Ward 5. Ward 6.
I'd just like to extend a public thank you to Dean Reverend Katie Churchwell at St. Paul's Episcopal for inviting me to be part of their Lessons and Carols service on a week ago. It was a really lovely service and just a really great opportunity to connect with a congregation in the ward. So appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. Ward 7.
Just excited again to think about our city moving forward and what is happening in our city. Particularly want to just encourage everyone to be a part of, as we move into a new year, the Martin Luther King celebration. There's a number of events that will be happening all over the city. Would love to encourage everyone to be a part.
Thank you. Ward 8.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't know if anybody's seen it yet today, but in the paper, there's an article by Jenny Carlson that talks about the new design of the downtown OKC arena, and it interviews Dave Manica, the architect hired for the new arena. It's a really great piece. This is a good place to start if you like following that kind of stuff, which I do. I'm a big Frank Lloyd Wright fan and like to go to different places where he's designed buildings, and so this is a good beginning point for understanding what Dave Manica is all about. He's known worldwide, and I think he's going to build an incredible facility for Oklahoma City. Thank you. Oh, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. All right, item 13 are citizens to be heard. And I'll call each name and remind everyone to state their name, address, and keep their remarks to 3 minutes or less. First up is Toon Nguyen.
Hello, Mayor, City Council members, and City Manager. My name is Toon Nguyen, address 3004 Southwest 100th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73159. I come before you today as the president of the Vietnamese American Heritage Community of Oklahoma, the founder of the Asian District Cultural Association, a co-founding member of the Greater Oklahoma City Asian Chamber, a volunteer in many capacity on a lot of our boards and our advisory council. I am here today due to an accident that occurred in our community regarding a police officer of the Oklahoma City Police Department and one of our residents, one of our members of our community. Mr. Litvu has been an instrumental part of the Vietnamese community for over 40 years. He and his wife have volunteered in numerous capacities, from serving on homeless shelters to voting polls in Oklahoma for many years. He's played a pivotal and active role in the Vietnamese American community in establishing that. The Attorney General's decision to dismiss the officer from a criminal charge was very unsettling to our community and many in Oklahoma. There's been anger, there's been hurt, many is upset. Most importantly, there's been feelings of distrust in our leaders, in our leadership. There have been mayors, city council members, police officers from around the country that has been contacting us to offer their apologies and sorries for what we're going through, and sorry for the family that this has had to happen. This is very unsettling to many of them, and it's unacceptable. Everyone in our city, our state, our country, and worldwide, in this case, all eyes are in Oklahoma right now, in Oklahoma City, to do the right thing. I'm not here to criticize anyone for what they did and did not do. I'm not here on any motives of any kind of defunding police office or policy. I'm here to offer a resolution to Oklahoma City as a way forward for our city. My offer to Oklahoma City to rebuild the trust is to take that one community at a time by reassuring that we all work together with law enforcement, with our FOP, to build better understanding, empathy, compassion, and most importantly, build relationships that is long-lasting.
30 seconds remaining.
However, my request to the city is that our city manager is on behalf of the family, and the request is for the family to be seeking justice, as justice be served, is our city manager and at all powers that be to terminate Officer Gibson effective immediately, never to be given to serve as a law enforcement officer. If this is not possible, at minimum, Officer Gibson is never to patrol the streets of Oklahoma City again. Again, no matter what color, what race, what gender identity, religion, or political view, when one member of our city and our state has injustice, injustice is going to be open, and the door of injustice will be open to all in Oklahoma City. So I thank you for this time, and I hope you guys all have a happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. This time's been gone. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Nguyen.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Cindy Nguyen. I am at 4624 Northwest 60th Street. I am the co-founder of the Asian Task Force of Oklahoma and currently serve as the Ward 2 Commissioner for the Oklahoma City Human Rights Commission. I remember my first interaction with law enforcement when I was a child. My father took me with him to pick up some clothes from a dry cleaner, and they ended up overcharging him for a service he simply did not request. It was a simple misunderstanding that should have been resolved in a few minutes. Instead, the police were called, and I still remember the tension in the air as they arrived. Instead of speaking to my father, who was having trouble understanding what was going on, they turned to another customer who happened to be a white woman who spoke perfect English, and they nodded along as she told them what had happened or what she saw. I did my best to translate for my father, to translate all of his fear, his frustration into English, even though I was still in elementary school. I still remember the way the police officer looked at my father as though he was less than, as though he was the one wasting his time. Up until that moment, I had never felt so small or powerless. In that moment, I realized how easily people like my family with limited English proficiency could be dismissed, unseen, and unheard, which is exactly what happened to Mr. Vu and his family. A 71-year-old man fighting bone cancer is now suffering from a skull fracture because Sergeant Joseph Gibson slammed his body to the ground instead of waiting for another officer to arrive or simply using a translation line. It is not lost on me that this is the same meeting in which City Council will vote on a settlement for Stavion Rodriguez's family. Each time there is an OKC-PD misconduct settlement, OKC taxpayers are the ones who pay the price. These officers are not only dangerous and should be prohibited from working in any police department, but they are costing us taxpayer money. If Oklahoma City Police Department cannot de-escalate a situation with an elderly man fighting bone cancer or a 15-year-old boy who felt like he had no other options, then how can we even trust them to uphold safety in our most vulnerable of communities? Thank you.
Thank you. Tasneem Al-Michael.
Good morning, council members and community members. My name is Tasneem Al-Michael. I reside at 13301 North Star Drive in Ward 8 and also a fellow Frank Lloyd Wright fan. I'm here today as a community engagement manager for the Center for Community and Justice, a coach to 8 bright Asian girls and boys, a member of the Human Rights Task Force, and as an immigrant who's lived here in Oklahoma City since I was 10 months old. I speak in conjunction with our city's Asian community to advocate for meaningful change following the tragic incident regarding Mr. Vu. His case is not an isolated event, but rather reflects systemic issues that deeply affect immigrant communities in our city. This issue is deeply personal for me. Earlier this year, my father, a convenience store owner in Ward 2, called the police after a customer began intimidating him over a dispute regarding change. I arrived just in time to de-escalate the situation before the police had arrived, but instead of focusing on the man who caused the problem, the officers pulled me aside, patted me down without my consent, and placed my hands behind my back. If my father, a very anxious man, had seen me treated this way, he could have had a panic attack or worse. Now, what would the police would have done then? Would they have restrained him like Mr. Vu because of a language barrier? How can immigrant business owners feel safe when those who are supposed to protect us are the ones causing us harm? These questions are not in abstract. Oklahoma City has one of the highest rates of police violence per capita in the United States. Between 2013 and 2021, OKCPD was involved in 58 fatalities, a rate higher than 96% of police departments nationwide. Black residents are 5.1 times more likely to be killed than white residents, and 80% of use of force incidents remain unreported. Financially, our city has spent millions of dollars settling cases for police conduct, including over $1 million for Benny Edwards in 2023 and close to $900,000 for Stavian Rodriguez in 2024. While the existing Force Review Board is a great step in the right direction, its recommendations need to be treated with greater urgency. It's not enough to evaluate these incidents after the fact. Proactive measures must be implemented to prevent these tragedies from happening in the first place. We call on council to make the following actions. Number one, make de-escalation a core value in every interaction and not just a policy on paper. Number two, revise the use of force policy to mandate verbal warnings before force is used. Number three, ensure 100% implementation of use of force reporting systems to increase accountability.
30 seconds.
Number four, strengthen the Force Review Board by ensuring its recommendations result in measurable preemptive changes. These are all, by the way, recommendations within the 39 recommendations from 21CP. And one thing that I would add is partner with culturally equipped community organizations to improve training, education, and cultural awareness. They're not just recommendations, they're necessities. Communities like mine need to know that law enforcement is committed to protecting all residents, regardless of their background or language. It's time to act, not just for Mr. Vu, but for every Oklahoma City resident that deserves to feel safe in their community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Steve Lee.
Ooh, hello, hi you guys. Hi, I'm Steve Lee. I reside at 2415 Northwest 31st Street in Ward 2. So again, my name is Steve Lee. I'm the new executive director of the Asian District Cultural Association. The last time that I was here, I was thanking you guys for allowing us to expand and close the 6 lanes of Classen to have the Asian Night Market Festival. And again, thank you for that. We had a very successful event. I want to thank you, the mayor and the council, for listening to the previous speakers who are leaders in our community. While this is a sensitive topic amongst us, we all believe there's a way forward that can enact the positive change we know can be done. There has been a passage of time from when this incident occurred, and it is still on the forefront of my mind, my friends and family, the Oklahoma City community, and frankly, the rest of the country. I would like to remind the council that just because something is deemed as not criminal, that does not make it right or reasonable. I look forward to keeping the dialogue open and hope that these conversations have made an impression on everyone here. And I would like the council to look at the audience and see that this is the members of the Oklahoma City community and our Asian community. We are here supporting this. I also hope that the current internal investigation conducted by Oklahoma City Police Department concludes in a just outcome. Thank you truly for your time.
Thank you. Michael Washington.
100 Park Place, Oklahoma City, Midwest with the city in it. Well, 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 well. Sergeant Gibson, you're going to use your position as an Oklahoma City police officer on an Asian gentleman who himself obviously has a language problem, and simply because he touches you, I'm going to break your neck. I'm going to slam you to the ground. I'm not going to have any compassion for you, even though I know you're old, man, and can't hurt me. But I'm going to go to the extreme and throw you down like a rag doll, not grab you and hold you. Or maybe wait until someone came along. We are supposed to be a society of progressive nature, not to disregard the elderly. Sure, he may not should have touched him, and I agree with getting the Drummond. However, if you have a district attorney, Vicky B. Henner, saying, hold up, it was an excessive use of force, why do we have her in office if someone higher than her can say, hold on just a minute, I want to protect the fraternal order of police? That's my talk here. Hello, y'all. He's one of our community officers. We're just so glad that he wasn't punished. Well, like you said, it shouldn't be over yet because you still have the opportunity, Mr. City Manager, to correct this very volatile, useless situation like this here. Had that man touched him, me, and any person with common sense, we don't lose our commonality simply because we become an officer, a firefighter, whatever the case is, now do we? Sometime I touch an officer, now you got me scared. Now, I'm not talking about in an aggressive manner, but now just touch, get Michael Washington now. He touched me, come on now. That's not the way citizens are supposed to act with one another, is it? Even now, sometimes even I say, hey, my officer, I didn't do that. That don't mean, he's trying to hurt me. Come on, man, come on. There has to be some semblance of common sense here. And did you hear getting the drum and say, this man had done what he was trained to do? I don't believe it. If that's the case, then policy needs to be changed, police policy, quickly, fast, and in a hurry. That's right, go back and listen to this interview. So I'm trying to tell you, and even with the case of Stavian Rodriguez, this time just gets, Mike, I just get to go like an engine rolling, I need to stop. But anyhow, Stavian Rodriguez's family needs justice. We got a young man here. Now, come on now, people of color. Here's Hispanic and Asian. Look at that. Yes, both of them. Drop whatever you got in your weapon, young man. Pop, 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 pop. You tell me to drop what I got, and then I'm not threatening you or anything. Pop, 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 pop. Come on, man. Police procedures need to be corrected, and I think we had our chance. Thank y'all very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Quang Pham.
Mayor and City Council, I'm glad to be back here in Oklahoma City Hall. I've been here in different professional things about 20 years ago. But anyway, my name is Quang Pham. I'm a former State of Oklahoma Human Rights Commission. And I'm a friend of Mr. Lek Vu and his family for more than 30 years. And Vu is an Air Force veteran of the former Republic of Vietnam. Since I was a Human Rights Commissioner of State Oklahoma, it appears this case of police using excessive force for an old man, 70 years old, is a kind of human rights violation. That's why I'm here to propose what measure the city and police department should have done. And as you know, Mr. Lek Vu and his wife is a devout Catholic, and he's always spent time, both of them, to help the poor and the homeless. And he sometimes volunteers for the Salvation Army to distribute food and clothing for the poor and the homeless. And October 27, 24, he and his wife, after getting out of the church, they decided to come home to change so they can go to a homeless shelter to serve them. Then an incident happened to him. He denied to accept a police ticket of the incident as he thought that he did not do anything wrong with the city traffic laws. Unfortunately, the police officers threw him on the road, then handcuffed him, a 70-year-old man. His head hit the ground and bleeding, and his neck was seriously hurt. His wife had to call ambulance to the scene to take him to OU Medical Center, where he got surgery of his brain to stop the bleeding from his head.
30 seconds remaining.
Apparently, the police has used excessive force to a feeble senior citizen of 70 years old. I wonder how the police officer could think of such an old man may be able to fight against him. Yet, he reacted forcefully. The police reacted forcefully. So I strongly recommend the City Council, as well as the City Police Department, provide a training program for their officers in appeasing the tense situation while dealing with the public. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Garland Pruitt.
Garland Pruitt, 952 North Triple X Road, President NAACP. We, as decent human beings, have got to come to the point that when someone make a mistake, or when someone step out of line, that we as an organization, we as a city council, have got to hold people accountable for some of the actions and the decisions that they make. It shouldn't be that hard for us, all of us, those that are here, those that are not here. We got a black eye across the country because of an overzealous overactivity of an officer. Hold him accountable. We can do that. That's not that difficult. When we say, are we our brother's keeper? We are. When you hold the title and the position and the authority to make the decision that is proper, just, fair, and right. That shouldn't be that hard. If you'd ask a child, if they saw that incident took place, they would say, no, it's not right. That's not that difficult. So hopefully, prayerfully, we, all of us, City Council, the public, the police department, the FOP, can make the decision that you got to be held accountable. If it was one of us, we'd be held accountable. The guy, not a good 100 pounds look like. Nah, I'm in my 70s. He might not have confronted me like that. You see the difference? I'm gonna take advantage of my title, my position, and my authority based on I got a badge on. Be accountable. Be accountable. City Council, be accountable. Help them make the right decision. It shouldn't be that difficult. Put your father or grandfather in that position. Slam him to the ground, bust his head open, handcuff him. For what? It wasn't that serious. We're supposed to be able to make a decision that is helpful and useful and compatible with the situation.
30
Find
seconds
yourself in a
remaining.
situation, address the situation in a proper manner. We all know that it wasn't done in the proper manner. Hold the young man accountable for his decision. That's the right thing to do for society. Just will equal fair. Some things don't even have to be questioned. I was part of the revision for the police department and putting some things in place as we work together, as we work around problems, as we work through situations. This is one of those situations where those with power, title, and position can do the right thing, make the recommendation, process the young person, the officer, full extent of the law, as you would do one of us if we was out there abusing, if we was out there committing a crime. Does it make sense? Let it make sense. Basic common sense. When we do that, we be doing the right thing. Thank you for your time. Please do make the right choice and do the right thing. Make your recommendation that accountability is everything. Thank you. You all need to be accountable also for that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. J.B. Williams?
He's out here, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Scarlett Lee Cow?
Good morning, City Manager, Mayor, and all the councils. My name is Scarlett Lee Cow. My address is 20 Northwest 13. It is heartbroken to stand here to talk to you about these issues. This can be related to anyone, grandparents or parents here. During COVID-19, we have to talk to our parents how to be safe to go for a walk in the neighborhood. They have to carry pepper sprays. Now things getting normal, but should it be normal again? Or should we have to teach our parents how to interact with police officers when you're a minority? Oklahoma City is a diverse culture, a diverse city. We have Asian American, Native American, Hispanic, and Black. All of us make up more than 40% of the population. We come from different backgrounds and cultures and different languages. If there is an officer who cannot understand the fabric of Oklahoma City and how diverse we are, how can we lay trust to police department? Of all I can say is I would love the city and to make the right decisions and teach the police department how to de-escalate the situations and ask for support, ask for help. I am standing here to represent 16,000 Vietnamese American here, 68,000 Asian American, and also other races here. Of all 16,000 Vietnamese American here, we could have been there to help him, not to suffer. We're here as your resources. Use us as your translations. Use us to understand our culture, our background, our people. Use us to build the city. And thank you.
Thank you. I saw J.B. Williams. Would you like to speak?
Good morning. Sorry I'm late. I don't have a lot to say. I just here to support this community. Everyone who's seen that video has been traumatized. I was traumatized when I saw it, and it reminded me of a bunch of things that I've gone through or experienced myself. And everyone knows this is wrong, and it can't go unaddressed, and we can't allow this to be the status quo. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our citizens who have signed up to speak.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I say something?
Okay, but keep it short.
It's a question. Well, I appreciate that. And let me just say I appreciate folk taking time to attend. And the reason why I'd like to take a moment is because this incident occurred in Ward 2. So something that now has national, international attention took place in the area between 235, MacArthur, 23rd, and Britton. And that's a very real slice of land to me. So if I might. Some clarifications. Hi, yes, thank you. Would you mind, Paula, walking us through, we heard some references to the review process that's now taking place. City Manager, you're welcome, of course, to speak to it as well, but for clarification to those here in the chamber who took time to be here on New Year's Eve, by the way, could you walk us through the process, what this review process will look like to set up the expectation of what's coming as it relates to the investigation for this officer at this level now that the Attorney General has made the decision that he has, please?
Right. Typically, the police department will hold back on initiating their administrative review until the criminal questions have been answered. Now that that has been addressed, then they will go through their internal review and do their administrative investigation and review this, and it'll come through the normal processes there for recommendation for discipline, if there is a recommendation. And the police chief will be involved. I'll be engaged with that as well with the police chief, but the police chief will be involved in reviewing that. Ultimately, after we make our decision on that, this incident will also be reviewed with the Public Safety Community Advisory Board. And so it'll go through that review as well, not as a part of the discipline, but as a part of just process and how we're engaging with the community with some of the things that have mentioned today regarding de-escalation, procedural changes, training changes, anything like that that's needed as a result of this. And they'll also review the actions that were taken by the city as a result of what occurred.
Thank you. If I might slow us down even a little bit more there. Before it gets to you and Police Chief Basie, who's doing the review looking at this issue in the first place? Like, who does that inside OKCPD?
There's a group inside the police department, or a part of the police department, that's the professional standards division or area, and they're doing the investigation and the review now. So they review internal, like uses of force, or any kind of incident like that that could result in discipline or recommendations that come to the police chief.
And then if I'm hearing this process correctly, and if anyone has questions out there, please let me know. I'm doing this because I want everyone to understand a process that I, as a council person, am still making sure I understand. Mm-hmm. So professional standards does an investigation of the incident, then their recommendation or their assessment of the situation makes its way to you, the city manager, and the police chief?
To the police chief. The police chief will then make a decision. City manager's office ultimately has responsibility for any discipline or anything else that happens within the organization, but typically allowing the department director to make decisions on that. But I will engage with this one with the police chief as he's making his decision.
I have a few follow-ups, and then I'll get to you, Mr. Nguyen. I know you and Mr. Garland have a question too. And I do appreciate everyone's patience. This is not stuff they teach us in school, and I think we need to know these sorts of process-oriented things. Maybe it's our municipal council, maybe it's city manager, because I heard some people speak to the idea that city council would have a role in any of the decisions regarding this police officer. Would it be possible for either city manager or Paula, would you mind, because I've been having to think about this a lot since the incident occurred, would you all mind walking us through how in a city manager form of government, what your role as city manager is versus what the mayor and the council can do and cannot do when it comes to the employees of which OKCPD officers are? What are the guardrails? What are the parameters? What's your role?
So I'll talk about a part of that, and then I think we want to talk about due process as well and more of the process. But basically, we have a council manager form of government, and in a council manager form of government, the city manager has responsibility for all personnel actions and management of all of the organization. The council and the mayor are actually prohibited from engaging in those actions, whether it be hiring, firing, any kind of discipline. That's my responsibility. And so in our form, the council can't engage in this directly, but it's my responsibility to take those actions.
Good morning, council member. Please stop me if I, rattle on. So all uniformed police officers of the city of Oklahoma City are members of a collective bargaining unit, the Fraternal Order of Police. There are due process rights that are in that collective bargaining agreement, that when there are allegations of misconduct brought against any employee of the police department, then they are presented with those allegations and then they are given due process rights in order to respond to those allegations prior to any decision being made. So the process that the city manager just described of the Office of Professional Standards will do an investigation and look into the allegations, and they will make recommendations regarding those. There's a whole process that goes through to ensure that the officer has been given his due process rights, so that when the final decision is made on that discipline, all of those processes are checked and the city is in the right position to make the right decision, which then will trigger, dependent upon whether a decision to discipline is made, then some post-due process elements as well that will proceed on through the processes that are included in the collective bargaining agreement.
So and just to tack on to the end of that, what I think Paula was alluding to as well is, if we get to a point that we make a decision going through all of this due process and giving the officer the opportunities to be represented through that process, and we make a decision, if it does result in some level of discipline, the decision then, just looking at the process, the officer is granted also the potential to grieve that or challenge that through an arbitration process, and that's just provided in the contract. So ultimately, we would make a decision if it was decided by the officer or by the Fraternal Order of Police to pursue an arbitration on any decision that's made, then that would also, that decision that we make would fall under the jurisdiction of that arbitrator.
Okay, and then just a couple more, and I really appreciate everyone's patience on this description. You mentioned the role of the public safety partnership, and I would just briefly remind everyone before I turn this over for your clarifications that the public safety partnership is a result of the 2020 historic protest which occurred in this city, not just because of what happened with George Floyd, but because of our own statistics. And so people took to the streets multiple times through protest. The mayor created a task force focusing on de-escalation, right, and reviewing our existing Citizens Review Board. And from that came policy recommendations as it relates to de-escalation, but also from that came a newly reestablished Citizens Review Board, whereby each council person appointed someone to serve on that board. Mine is Nicole Maldonado. She's already hosted an event speaking about her role. Would you mind explaining a little bit more about what happened after the process you've just described with professional standards, the arbitration? What role will the Public Safety Advisory Board here have as it relates to this particular event?
They will review this item after we've made our decision. They will review it, and what they have the opportunity to do is review. They can reflect back and make a recommendation based upon the decision that was made on the discipline. If they felt like there's something different we should do either in the review or in the investigation or our approach to discipline in a certain area, but also are taking a broader look of how we're serving the community to see if this is an isolated incident or if this is an issue that is maybe reflecting on training that's needed or changes in policy or practices. So they'll take a broader view on that, and they can make recommendations back to the police chief or back to the city manager in terms of what we're doing going forward in addressing these, but could also reflect on the decisions that were made in the discipline.
So if I'm hearing that correctly, it sounds like it's in that moment where that body could say, hey, we completely agree with what professional standards said, the decision from the city manager, the police chief, we think this is great, or they could disagree and say that as a body. And if I'm hearing you correctly, they can make recommendations, like some of the suggestions I'm hearing from you all those are suggestions that, for instance, I'm not saying they will, but they could say, hey, here are some things that going forward, these are some things the city should implement to try and prevent these sorts of incidents from occurring. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Just real quick, no, I don't know why I said that, and it's not going to be real quick.
James,
no,
we're getting a little far afield of the agenda. I mean, we have to respect
You,
the open meetings act a little bit.
yeah, tell me what's.
I don't know what you were about to do, but it looked like we were just open.
Well, you had two residents. I hear you, Mayor. You have two resident. Well, I'll also just say I tried to hold back during comments from council because I wanted to amplify the voices of the people who are here on New Year's Eve. Whatever is within the parameters of the open record, you had two residents who rose their hand who seemed to be asking for clarifications on this process. Am I allowed to ask them to come up
I think
here?
we've done citizens be heard. Obviously, we all know those residents, and we would be happy, and Paula would be happy to talk to them, to drill down into every level of detail imaginable. I think we probably need to end it here, though, and move into executive session.
Okay.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure, residents, y'all got hopefully
Yeah,
the
that was-
clarification.
I thank you for that exercise. That was edifying and helpful, I think.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
All right, thank you. All right, we have 2 executive sessions. We'll be back after that to vote on item Z1. Thank you all. All right, we are back, and we still have item Z1 pending. What was the council wish to do?
At this time, as to item Z1, I'd make a motion to defer this item for 2 weeks.
All right, we have a motion to defer. Let's do that electronically. This would be till, what's the date again? January 14th?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Passes 4-3. And so the item is deferred till the 14th, and that concludes our agenda. Item 14 is adjournment, and we are adjourned. Thank you all. Happy New Year.